Hi, my name is Marley and welcome to this video. This week I'm going to be doing a reading vlog with the theme reading books for or about redheads. I came up with this idea because obviously I have red hair, so I thought it would be fun to read books about redheads, that I can relate to, and I just thought it was an interesting theme that I haven't seen anyone else do on BookTube yet. So I scoured the internet, I looked up lists of books that are for redheads and about redheads, and there are not very many lists out there. So I had to do a lot of digging, and these are some books that I found. The first book that I plan on reading this week is The Unidentified Redhead by Alice Clayton. This is the first book in a series, I guess, called the Redhead series. Basically, it is about this girl, Grace Sheridan, who is coming back to Hollywood to try and pursue her acting career that she had given up on previously. She is now 33 and she's not sure if it's too late to make her dream of becoming a famous actress a reality, but she ends up getting into a romance with Hollywood's newest it boy, and so I think it's about the romance between them. Apparently it gets pretty steamy and we'll see. I'm assuming dating Hollywood's newest it boy would be great for her career, so we'll see what happens with that. I don't know how much it has to do with her being a redhead though. The story doesn't seem to have anything to do with it, but we will see. Oh, I'm guessing the unidentified redhead is probably what the paparazzi is going to call her when she starts dating this popular actor. Predictions. And I guess if I enjoy this one, I can read the other two in the series. We'll see. So the next book that I saw was recommended for redheads is The Selection by Kiera Kass. So the Selection series I have been hearing about for years on BookTube. I know they're a really popular series. I think it's sort of dystopian and about like a competition, probably inspired by Hunger Games, like so many other series. But this I think is known to be kind of like The Bachelor but dystopian, and so from the looks of it, it seems like a group of girls are chosen to compete to win the crown and like win the prince's heart, and our main character seems to be not happy with that because she actually already has a love back home, but I assume she'll probably end up falling for the prince. We'll see. The reason that this is recommended for redheads, it looks like, is just because the main character has red hair from the looks of the cover. But I was honestly excited when I saw this recommended for redheads because I've been wanting to read this series. This will be exciting to read the first book, and again, I'll see if I want to continue. The next book I found is called Redhead by the Side of the Road by Anne Tyler. So this book is the one I'm a little bit more worried about just because it does seem to be more adult and potentially more boring. But it seems to be about this man, Micah, who has a kind of like very boring life, and then one day it looks like his girlfriend like kicks him out or gets like evicted from her apartment, and a young boy shows up to his doorstep claiming to be his son. So that sort of like shakes up his world a little bit, and the description says he has to start seeing his life through new eyes. So I'm guessing it will just sort of be like an inspirational story about this man of going through these life-changing events, and I guess the father-son relationship. Who's the redhead in this book, you ask? Maybe that's the son. The redhead by the side of the road is maybe like his son because he just sort of like shows up. We'll see. We'll see if that has anything to do with being a redhead. And the fourth and final book I'm going to try to get to is The Rosie Project by Graeme Simpson. This is a romantic comedy book, so that should be fun. Ooh, this sounds fun. So basically there's this guy who's like a genetics professor, and he's trying to find his perfect mate, and he makes this like 16 page survey for women to take to see if they would be a good match for him. But I guess his survey fails, surprise surprise, and he ends up meeting this girl Rosie, who his survey actually said was not a good match for him, but he ends up, I guess, falling in love with her and having a romance with her. That sounds really cute. That might be above like Redhead on the Side of the Road in terms of the order that I'll do. But this one also seems to be a series. All of these are series, and so again, if I like the first one, maybe I'll read the second and third. And I assume that Rosie is a redhead, and that's why it was recommended for, or is listed to be about, redheads. I was thinking of doing some like non-fiction reads for this as well, but I ended up not choosing any, but maybe I will do this again and choose more like non-fiction ones. So yeah, this week I'll be trying to read those 4 books about redheads, and I'll let you know my thoughts as I go. Hello, it's time for the first update. So far I've been reading The Unidentified Redhead by Alice Clayton. This is definitely a romance and a bit of an erotic one. There's been a lot of sexual talking, sexual flirting going on. So at first I wasn't really loving that. I was finding it a little bit cringy because that type of banter, I guess, could be cringy. But as I go on, I'm 26%. As it's going on, I'm actually not minding it. I'm actually thinking the couple is pretty cute and they have pretty good chemistry. Sorry, there's like no good lighting here being in the basement. Okay. But yeah, also another thing to note is if you're into age differences, you might be into this because the main character is 33. As I said, she tried to make it in Hollywood and didn't really work out, and now she's back trying to have like a second chance at it. But the guy who is the up and coming Hollywood it boy, is 24. So that's a 9-year age difference. So that's gonna be interesting to see that play out. And he is the one that's like super interested in her. So that's kind of unexpected. Like, why would a 24-year-old be into like a 30-something-year-old woman? But I guess it's cute. Also, I can really tell that this is an older book. I looked it up and it came out in 2010, so 10 years ago. And it's weird. I haven't read a book that like came out so long ago in a while, because there's things like the guy was saying how he wished that he could have his Starbucks delivered to him, and it's like there's Uber Eats now, and just a lot of things like that you can just tell that this is like older. Also, the characters, as I mentioned, the main character and like her friend are 33 and I'm only 23, so basically the age of her boyfriend. I can definitely tell like some references and jokes that they make are for like a different generation. Like, they're obsessed with New Kids on the Block, which I do know New Kids on the Block. I've listened to them a bit, but just like a different generation. So it's not super relatable to me, besides the red hair, which is not a big not a big factor so far. They have been caught hanging out by the paparazzi and she has just been called the Unidentified Redhead. So I was right about that being the reason for the title. But anyways, I'm thinking it's pretty cute so far. It's just that I don't normally read romances, especially like steamy ones. So I'm not really used to reading about couples like that. Like, it just comes off as a little bit like cringy to me sometimes. But so far I am having fun with this one. So I'm just doing a quick update to say there's some things that are making me uncomfortable recently in this book. The main girl, Grace, is meeting a couple of Jack's friends, and the guy friend immediately meets her and is checking her out and compliments her rack. And she's like, oh yeah, I have a good rack. And like, Jack's fine with that. And now it just got even worse. She's hugging the friend and his hand starts to drift towards her butt. And Jack goes, hey man, get your hands off my girl. And he goes, Jack, seriously, I can't help it. That's one fine woman. Lane says teasingly, smacking me on my butt. Would you let your friend smack your girlfriend's butt? Man, am I happy I'm finished this book. So I just finished The Unidentified Redhead. Let's start off with what I did like about it. I did actually quite like the main character, Grace. She had a lot of character. She definitely wasn't plain. She was super blunt and outgoing and would just say whatever was on her mind. That was definitely entertaining to watch. She had, you know, banter with Jack, who was the love interest, and her best friend, Holly. So I did like her. On the other hand, Jack, the love interest, was way more plain. He was basically hot and sweet and a talented actor, and that was his personality. But I did think that they were cute together. I shipped it. However, as you guys saw, there were some things that I did not enjoy. It was a bit outdated. As I said, it came out in 2010, and so a lot of references were just outdated, like talking about iPods, talking about Jessica Simpson, Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore, the Coreys, like older references that I obviously get but are just not current. And the fact that those comments were made and the actions were made by that friend that I filmed that clip about, where he was being inappropriate, I don't really think that would fly in a book coming out in 2020. Let's just say, I hope not anyways. And yeah, there was a lot of steamy scenes, sexual scenes, which I did not know it was going to be that kind of book. So I know a lot of people are fans of those types of romances where it's mostly just smutty scenes. So if you're a fan of that, you'd probably like this. I've realized I'm not a big fan of those types of books, so that is why, as I said, I'm very happy to be finished. I guess the only other book I've read like this is the 50 Shades series, where there are just intimate scenes after intimate scenes, and they all just sort of blend together. I actually found myself starting to space out while reading this because all those scenes just are the same and not interesting. Another thing I found is that there was like no conflict in this book because it was just all about their relationship and them doing it. There was not really any conflict. I thought there was going to be more to the whole unidentified redhead thing, which I mentioned was because the paparazzi kept catching Grace and Jack acting coupley in public, and those photos were getting, you know, shared in the press. And Jack's manager, who is also Grace's best friend, warned them that they probably should not be so public because as a famous actor, you want to appear available, right, to all the single girls that are obsessed with you. So I thought that was going to be more of an issue with how their relationship was so public and they were going to have to like hide their relationship, or something bigger was going to go on with that. No, nothing. It was like basically just hinted at. She's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't be public. And they're like, well, we're going to be. So as I mentioned, this is also a series. I think there's 2 more books. So I'm guessing there'll be more conflict in those. But because I didn't enjoy this book that much, I'm not really tempted to read them. So in conclusion, if you are into smutty books, this was pretty cute. But if you're not into that, then I wouldn't pick it up because I just did not enjoy it very much. So I think the next book I'm going to read is The Selection, because that seems a lot more promising. It's a book I already wanted to read even before I decided to do this themed video, and it's a very popular series, so I don't think I'll be disappointed. Hi, so I thought I would do an update on The Selection. I'm definitely enjoying it way more than the first book. You can tell it is heavily inspired by The Hunger Games, as I mentioned. So it is a dystopian. There is hints that World War IV is going on, or it takes place after World War IV, and there is a caste system in this society, or at least in this country, called Ilya. And so our main character's name, ironically, is America, and she is a 5. So number 1 is like the top, the most elite, all the way down to number 8. So she's kind of like in the middle, and her cast are performers. So she sings and plays instruments. Her dad's like an artist. And there is a competition going on to marry the prince. So definitely more fun competition than the Hunger Games, but there are a lot of rules for it and stuff like that too. So it's not like as great as people think. But we actually had a redhead moment. So America is a redhead, and she just met a bunch of fans at the airport on her way to the castle. And this little girl had a little sign that said "Redheads rule," and she's the only redhead in the competition, and she's like touched by it, and I'm like, that's cute. Anyways, I think this is gonna be good, but also like they're heavily taking things from the Hunger Games. So there's a character named Marley in The Selection, so that's fun. Not only is there a redhead, but there's a character named Marley. There are not very many Marleys in this world, and not very many fictional characters that I've known with that name, so it's cool. Okay, this couple is so cute. In this book, I am really shipping it. I feel like I have not rooted for a ship this much in a long time, so I'm really enjoying it. I like that they are friends, which I love that trope, like being friends first. I'm just scared there's gonna be an unrequited love situation, which is gonna be sad, but again, that is something that I normally like. I normally ship couples that have unrequited love involved, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens because I'm liking them. Hello, I just finished reading The Selection. So it's been a few days. I actually wasn't able to read for a couple days, but finally I was able to tonight, and I finished it. It wasn't really a very long book. And as you guys saw in previous updates, I was really enjoying it. I don't want to be too spoilery, but the love triangle is definitely a huge factor in this series. As I mentioned, I was really finding the main character America and Prince Maxon to be really cute, and I was loving it. And then the guy that she was in love with before from back home kind of enters the picture again, and it's definitely more of a love triangle. And I'm not someone who hates love triangles as much as a lot of people, so that was fine with me. I think it's pretty fun, and in a lot of love triangles I'll ship her with both guys, and that's definitely the case with the selection. I like both of them, so I am interested to see what's gonna happen. I don't really think there's a clear, obvious one that she's gonna end up with, so that's interesting. But what was weird about this book is that there was like not a lot of a plot. It was very much just based on relationships, and I was constantly waiting for like the big climactic thing to happen, and it never did. Like there's not really you know, hill to the story. It's basically just like this the whole time. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I was thinking, I was like, okay, once this whole competition gets wrapped up, you know, the competition for the prince's heart, I was like, what are the other books going to be about? But the reason there's more books is that the competition is not even finished in this first book. Sorry, maybe that is spoilery, but like, yeah, we don't even finish the competition in this first book, which is an interesting choice. You know, Hunger Games, all these other books with competitions, normally it's like you finish the competition in the first book and then the rest of the series is like the aftermath. So this is an interesting way to do it, but I think I would give this a 4-star. As I said, there are some weird things about this series. I see why people say it's kind of like a fun trash read, because it's not actually like a good book like in a like literary sense, but it's entertaining for sure. I definitely was having fun reading, and I definitely will continue. So that brings us to the end of the second book for my reading books about redheads vlog. Now I just have 2 more, and I'm not really sure which one I'm going to read next. I might do the Rosie Project just because that one sounded more fun. Hey, so it is the next day and I have a couple updates. So I decided to start reading the Rosie Project, and I read 2 chapters and I abandoned it because I wasn't liking it very much. So now I started the Redhead by the Side of the Road. I'm on chapter 2, but there's only 8 chapters, so it's pretty short. And this chapter, we just found out what the redhead by the side of the road means. Basically, our main character, he's in his 40s, so he's getting a little bit old and his vision isn't great. So when he goes running, he decides to not wear his glasses because he doesn't like the feeling of them like bumping on his face while he runs. I can't really relate to that. I guess I don't run enough to like remember my glasses ever doing that. But because of that, he will mistake objects for different things while he runs. So he sees this fire hydrant up ahead and he thinks it's like a small redheaded child. And that's why it's called the redhead by the side of the road, is because he thought this fire hydrant was a little redhead by the road. And that means there's no redhead characters at all. That's what the reference was. And there's not even any redhead characters. He's not redheaded, his girlfriend's not, and we just met his son. So I guess I've been duped with that one. I'm guessing it is more of a metaphor title. That's what I'm seeing now, to sort of show that he's sort of blind, because he does seem a little bit clueless. So I guess that's what it represents. The redhead by the side of the road was actually a fire hydrant, and it just shows how he's kind of like blinded to what's right in front of him. Okay, so it's a couple hours later and I just finished Redhead on the Side of the Road by Anne Tyler. This was a relatively short book and it was okay. As I already discussed, was not really about redheads whatsoever at all. There were no redhead characters except for one that was a dyed redhead. But it follows the boring, very scheduled life of a man named Micah Mortimer. Basically, he's in his mid-40s. He lives in a basement apartment. He's kind of like a tech handyman guy, and he has a very like routine life. Like he does the same things every day. He has his certain days where he'll clean each different section of his house, stuff like that. He has a girlfriend who ends up breaking up with him, and as I mentioned, he has this young boy show up claiming that he is his father, which we quickly find out that Micah isn't even his father because he never had sex with the guy's mom. So I was like, oh, okay, he's not really his dad, but maybe he'll kind of like act like a father figure to him and it will kind of like change his life. But didn't really happen. As I said, there's only 8 chapters in this book, so not a lot happened. Like, yes, meeting that guy changed his life a little bit and made him think about things and put them in into perspective or whatever, especially when he got back in contact with that boy's mom, who was his ex-girlfriend from college, and he has to think about why that relationship didn't work out and then why his relationship currently just ended, and basically just has to, you know, question what he's doing wrong and figure out that he is not happy living this kind of like boring, very structured life. So it was not that interesting. I'd probably give it like 2 or 3 stars. I actually liked the writing. I read it very quickly. Like I said, it's just a couple hours from my last update. So I liked the writing. I just felt like the story was like not a lot happened and it wasn't all of that interesting. So anyways, I completed the 3rd book and now I guess I will go back to the Rosie Project. But as I said, I was not really liking the writing in that one from the first couple chapters. So from the first couple chapters, it is about that man, I forget his name right now, who actually has a sort of similar life to Micah that I just read about, but he's like a bit of an older man, doesn't have a wife or anything like that. He seems to be on the autism spectrum, so he does have a lot of like quirks and things like that and trouble communicating with people, and that's one of the reasons that he is still single. And at the end of the 2nd chapter, he decides he's going to take on Project Wife, which would be his way of finding a wife. I looked up some reviews of this book just to confirm that the main character really was on the spectrum, and it seems that he is, but he doesn't know that he is in the book. And some people say that they like the representation and some people say that it was not good. So honestly, I'm not really looking forward to continuing it, but I'll keep you updated on that. Hey, so I'm almost halfway done the Rosie Project, and it has definitely gotten a lot better. It's actually pretty cute, especially since our main character, Dawn, started interacting with Rosie, which is the love interest. I definitely like Rosie. She is the redhead in the book, although, again, she admitted that she is not a natural redhead. It was dyed. Having its cute moments, it's having some fun moments. I don't know if I mentioned, it's technically supposed to be like a rom-com book. And yeah, basically Dawn, you know, was doing that survey to try and find his wife, which he's calling the Wife Project. So he, you know, put it out online for women to fill out, and then also went to some like physical dating events to like give it out. Obviously, it was not working because he's basically looking for something so specific. Like, he doesn't want a woman who smokes, who drinks, who wears makeup. He wants someone that's, you know, intelligent and very good at math. He has like a math problem like in the survey, and it's basically impossible for any woman to like get perfect on it. So his friend sends him Rosie, and immediately he can tell that like she would have failed the survey. Like, she smokes, she drinks, she's a bartender, so she's not particularly like good at math. But he clearly has a liking for her because he finds himself, you know, wanting to spend time with her, but he says it's just because he wants to help her with her project of figuring out who her biological dad is. And since he's a geneticist, he can help her with like the DNA samples and stuff. So basically, Rosie knows that her mom slept with her dad at her graduation party, so they are just trying to test basically all of the guys that were at the graduation party. So they're kind of doing these little like sneaky things together to try and get the DNA samples. So that's been fun. Definitely liking it more than I did initially. Hello, here we are. It's early in the morning right now, but I finished my 4th and final book for this video last night, the Rosie Project, and as you guys saw, I actually grew to really enjoy it by the end, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It actually was quite cute, and I also liked the mystery element to it of like who is Rosie's father, and we actually had a bit of a twist when it came to that storyline, so that was nice. The only thing I would say is that it was building up to Rosie and Dawn dating, and then when we got that, it was the end of the book and we didn't really get to see them like be a couple. It did have one of those last chapters where it like skipped forward and you got to see like what happens to them, but I would have preferred to actually get to read about it instead of just seeing like a flash forward at the end. Although I do know, as I mentioned, that it has 2 more books, so I guess if I want to see that, I could read the next 2 books. I'm a little bit tempted to, honestly, now that I've finished the book and I actually did enjoy it. We'll see. But yeah, I guess I would recommend this if you want to read like a romantic comedy, like adult romance, and with some autism representation. So to wrap this up, how would I rate the 4 books for or about redheads, some of which didn't even have redheads in them. I think number one would be The Selection for me. That was the only one from a genre that I actually read a lot of, which is like YA dystopian. Then I would say Rosie Project, which was a cute Australian romantic comedy. Then I guess I would say The Unidentified Redhead, because I did like quite a few elements of it, except for how there was so much sex in it and not enough of a plot. But it had potential if it just would have like fixed that. And then last would be The Redhead by the Side of the Road. Even though I actually really enjoyed the writing and the character, there was just like not much that happened in the story. So that brings us to the end of this vlog. Hopefully you guys liked it and maybe got some redhead recommendations from it. Let me know if you thought this idea was fun or not. Alright, please subscribe, leave me a comment, and see you guys in my next video. Thanks for hanging out.